This is Alternalido. I am Canyon Cody here with an old friend and a new friend. We got Outernational here, Miles, and you got a new record, and you brought a new friend in.
That's right.
Who you got today?
Well, we're glad to be here. We're here putting out and promoting the new Outernational record, Welcome to the Revolution, and we got a dear friend, fantastic drummer Chad Smith, joining us today, and it's just very emotional, very exciting. It's a record that was 13 years in waiting and in the making. And so we're here in LA playing a show, putting it out, and hustling real hard to share this revolution rock.
And you're kind of like, I think the right in the middle ground of what we play on this radio station, which is, are you a Latin band that plays rock, or are you a rock band that has Latin influences? Did you before this band, were you in other bands that were not in this style? Like, what led you to start this band?
Yeah, that's very interesting. I mean, what led me to start Outernational, along with my compadre Jesse Williams, I mean, we were trying to fulfill a void, make some rock and roll that had the energy and velocity of rock, but that was really challenging how people could see the world and the possibilities and potential for humanity. And I'm a big believer in the power of art as creative manifestation of metaphor. And so we were trying to create a band that could challenge people in the ways that some of my favorite bands and artists had challenged me when I was younger. In terms of being a Latin band, I mean, it's kind of interesting. 13 years ago, 12 years ago, we released our Todos Somos Ilegales concept album, which was about the border and the journey of people from Latin America north to this country. People forced, can't survive in their own countries, and they come here. And so we made an album that was kind of like a movie. And so I wanted to capture those soundscapes and what that looked like, what that smells like, what that feels like. And we were singing in Spanish, and we kind of like over the years have been in South America a lot, so we've kind of developed it more. But with the name of the band Outernational, I don't really think about it in terms of like one genre or another. It's loud like rock and roll. But we just kind of sponge it all up and try to share humanity.
And on that first album, you had some collaborations. You had Chad Smith on a track, but Tom Morello was on. Do you remember the connection that led you to this project?
I do. I remember coming out to Jim Scott, who's a great engineer, producer, and worked on lots of amazing albums. A lot of people know, but I personally know him from working on a couple Chili Pepper albums. And he was engineering, and he had worked with Tom, and Tom was producing, and they didn't have a drummer at the time, and so they were looking for someone to make some songs or play on some songs. And Miles said, "Well, can I get Chad Smith?" And I think Tom and Jim are like, "Yeah." And they just contacted me, and I was like, "Send me some music. Let's hear it." And I was like, "This is amazing. This is great. I'll be there, of course." And that was really the beginning of a long, really great relationship, not only musically, but personally. I love these guys. I love Miles, and he's a great friend of mine. And so, yeah. And then fast forward a few years later, they drove in their van all the way from New York City, straight through. Showed up at my house, and we made a record we wrote the songs at my house in Malibu. I have a little place down called the Tiki Room, and we just collaborated, and then we made that record with Jim, and this is what's coming out now. Welcome to the Revolution. So yeah, I just love their passion and how they think and how they conduct themselves, and they're so into it. It's so authentic. It's so real, and it's an important record that should be out. Although he says, yeah, it's true. We did this music a long time ago. It's more relevant today than ever. So it's, I was talking to somebody, and they're like, I know it was such an. This is perfect. Paul McCartney told me not to name drop. I was with little Steven, and he says, "Oh, you're working with this band?" I said, "Yeah, I got to play tonight in New York." And he's like, and I said, "Yeah, I help write and produce a record." Produce a record? He goes, "Yeah." And I said, like 12 years ago, he goes, "You're putting it out now, and it's like still relevant?" And I was like, "It is."
More relevant.
Right. He's like, "That's amazing." So yeah, it's it's fun. I just love to collaborate with really talented artists like Miles.
And you have a long history of collaborating and performing on other artists' albums and touring with other artists.
Yeah.
Have you produced other albums of other artists in the way that you did on this project?
Probably not as involved from like the beginning. I have worked with other people and produced some other stuff. I have a great friend who was the bass player and singer in Deep Purple, Glenn Hughes, and I worked with him 20 years ago, and helped him write and produce on some of his records and some other people. But like, it's their vision, and I would just kind of help facilitate and put my 2 cents in. It's really, they're being really like very nice to like say I produced it. It's.
I mean, it's actually more special to me than you producing. I mean, you did produce it because, producing, as you know, can mean many different things in different contexts. I mean, to me, as we reflect back on just the whole experience of putting this record out, people have asked me, well, because, you're very well known and one of the extremely humble man, but in my opinion, one of the greatest rock drummers of all time. He said, well, what was it like working with Chad? I said, it was, strangely enough, it was the most like relaxed and regular experience I've ever had with a drummer. We when we wrote the songs, we wrote them, like he's saying, in a little room. Yeah. Like the way you'd imagine a
garage band. We were
it was like a garage
band.
band. It was like he was in the band and we co-wrote the songs. I mean, every band is different, but the way you'd imagine the Pepper or any of these collaborative bands, when we first met, before that, making our first record with Morello, you came in as a session drummer and contributed a tremendous amount, and it blew me away. But this was very different. This was like a band of friends just, writing the songs in a very organic, it's such a cliche word, but kind of in an organic way, So very special.
So you guys, the album is out.
Yes.
You guys are doing some shows. You got a show coming up this Saturday at the Paramount. You just came back from New York. How's the New York shows?
Well, the New York show is very exciting. As we've alluded to, we made this record a long time ago, and such is the way the world is developed, an invitation to revolution and an unapologetic but uplifting artistic statement in that direction to liberate all of humanity, I think is more relevant and needed now than ever. The New York show, we played at a really cool, one of the last independent clubs in downtown Manhattan called Le Poisson Rouge. But more exciting was we played on a flatbed truck. We rented a flatbed truck and we drove all through the East Village. It was Chad's idea originally. And
Stone from the Rolling Stones from 1974.
Yeah. And that was just so exciting. And it also was weird because there's like this crazy, I don't know if it's because the mayor's indicted in New York and all the crazy things going on, but I was like prepared. I remember, Chad, you said a few months ago, you were like, I'll go to jail for your record. And I've never in my life done anything in New York that we got less heat for. We drove around for 3 hours.
We were passing cops and they're just like, oh, okay, yeah.
We're breaking 9 laws, driving.
But my favorite part of it, 'cause it's just great taking the music to the streets and the smile on people's faces. And we'd play a little bit and stop and play in front of this place, stop, play while the truck was moving. And, whoa, it was just like really fun for like 3 hours. But, at the end of the thing, it was very guerrilla style. So that I didn't do the hiring, but someone that works with them was found this guy Gambino, and Gambino's truck, and got him for a couple $100, and I'll do it, okay. And at the end of the trip, he's like, this is not my truck, and I haven't had a driver's license in 11 years. And he smoked 4 joints before he drove us around the city. It was great.
Well, he also said, since we're spilling the beans, he also said, because I had a lot of concerns, not concerns that we didn't want to do it. I just wanted to be prepared. If this happens, we're going to say this to the police because we didn't have permits or anything. But I do remember when I met him at 3 a.m. outside the bitter end, and he finally showed up with his truck, just so we could see the truck we're going to be on in 9 hours. I was like, well, we want to do this because the cops do this. And I remember he said, don't worry, they're not going to mess with me. And I don't know why. Yeah. But there's something to the story we don't know. Yeah. But the point of it is that we went, it's a cliche thing to talk about, but everybody knows it's a challenging time for artists. It's a challenging time for Homo sapiens on planet Earth, but it's a challenging time for artists. And I think it was very liberating for us, different for Chad. And I think like it was interesting, like how many smiles, you know what I'm like, people smiling, you know, and we didn't really promote it because we were trying to push tickets for our show and we didn't know that we weren't going to get heat and we didn't get permits or anything. I mean, from the police. So we were kind of like, there's one dude I know who's like connected in downtown and I told him to just like say something on his Instagram, but we didn't promote it at all. So we didn't even really have our fans there. We just went. It was very liberating and exciting, and I'd like to do it every week.
And so the band is called Outernational. Have you guys had a chance to perform this in other parts of the world?
Absolutely. We've had, in a funny kind of way, this week and this releasing of Welcome to the Revolution is sort of a relaunching of, and trying to get some wind in the sails for this project and this band here in this country. I mean, last year, coming out of the pandemic and all the turmoil of the last years, I was trying to relaunch Outernational. And I have a lot of friends and have a whole experience in Colombia, the country Colombia in South America. And so we sort of relaunched Outernational in Colombia. And I told Chad, I was like, yo, we made a music video for Welcome to the Revolution. I said, I'm going to be in Colombia, like playing shows in Bogota. And he said, well, we're going to be down there with the Chili Peppers doing the Red Hot Chili Peppers tour. And we should play some shows. So we went and played in Chile and in Argentina. And this man on his days off sat in with Outernational, and we rocked it in Santiago. It was awesome. Never been to Chile. And then we went to Argentina, which was just such an insane week. It was the same week they had this Malay knucklehead became president, and it was the same week that the Chili Peppers were playing 2 shows at the largest stadium in South America, El Monumental, River Plate, like, you know, little club of 90,000 people. And then at the last minute, they invited us to open, to be like the first band, which was just such an electrifying and, you know, inspiring experience because, you know, when I wanted to first start my band like 20 years, a long time ago, someone said to me like, well, what are you trying to do? What are your dreams? I was like, stadiums. And all my friends were inspired and thought I was nuts. And we finally did it. We opened for them, which was just, you know, very exciting. So the band has kind of got a foothold. You know, we're still under the radar and underground, but in South America.
And Chad, you have, I mean, a lot of history of collaborating with a lot of different people, but in Latin America, from Maná to Juanes to who else has been musical collaborators with you from Latin America?
Nobody. Not that I know of.
To actually collaborate, I mean, to like play show,
yeah, like that we've played shows with,
or
just
that you've sat in on
I
a
know those
recording?
bands, but
Okay.
but like, you know, and I love like you know, Sepultura and band, you know, there's like a lot of great bands, but like we haven't collaborated with any other like.
No, just you as a
or me
as a drummer.
No,
So
I
this
mean I love them, but like no, I haven't had any. I can think. Is there somebody that you know that I don't? Am I missing somebody?
No, just you know, those are the artists that are kind of on your peers in terms of.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah. No, I mean, you know, the South American fans. And we've been fortunate to play, you know, lots of places around the globe. I think that they're the most passionate. They're nuts, man. They go berserk. They love music. They're such passionate people. Maybe Argentina even, you know, the Brazil and you know, Colombia and some other places like that. Fortunate to play, but they love rock and roll. They love, like, you know, they have their Rock in Rio festivals and we played, you know, lots of that stuff, and they just like, it's pretty inspiring. But Argentina, for some reason, they're even next level. They sing every riff. They do soccer, football chants between the songs. It's like a religion to them. It's so important to them. It's a way to express themselves in a way, you know, with love and positivity. And I think sometimes in certain places in the world that, you know, it's a tough to survive and live, and it's their outlet, and man, they just go for it. It's so fun as an artist to play some of those countries and those cities. So yeah, I you know, no offense, we love playing everywhere, but pretty wild.
And, this album and this band is very overtly political. Red Hot Chili Peppers is not primarily an overtly political band, but you were kind of part of a very political music moment with Dixie Chicks. That was quite a moment in America after 9/11 and the war. What was your experience from the inside of that?
We were doing a Stadium Arcadium album, and Rick Rubin was producing it, and I remember in a break between songs, I'm having a cigarette, and he's like, "What are you doing, next week or next month or whatever?" And I said, "Oh," he goes, "I'm doing this Dixie Chicks album, and I think you'd be good for it. You want to play them?" "Yeah, sure." And I only really knew their music. I didn't know their music too much, but I knew they were the ones that said something about George Bush, and we're ashamed that he's from Texas or whatever it was. And they got a lot of flack for that. And I was like, good for them, speak their minds and what they think. And so I didn't know, other than I was like happy to play with Mike Campbell and these great session players and make music. I don't, the artists, when I'm not playing with Chili Peppers and like these guys and other artists, I just want to play as best as I can and support them in any way that I can musically. And what they want to say is what they want to say. And that record, obviously, there was a lot about their whole experience. And then, the Grammys came out and they won everything, because I think it was a little bit, sometimes the Grammys like to make a statement.
Yeah.
In that. They would have won Best Rap Album if they were up for it, But good for them, It was like, and they're honest and sincere. And I played on their next record.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah,
I
put on the last one that they did. But it was I think our music, we spread a lot of positivity, and especially when we go play concerts and see people really, have a great time. And if we had to worry about every country that we played in and their politics, and we wouldn't be able to play anywhere. We wouldn't be able to play in the U.S. for that matter, But we played everywhere, Russia and Israel, all over the place. And we're about, spreading that positivity, and we don't get caught up in it's too difficult. Other people do, and that's okay. But for our group, we've always, as you alluded to, we're just about the music.
I do have a very drummer-specific and also patriotism question. You performed the national anthem on drums?
I have, yes. You're going way back.
How do you compose?
Internet is a crazy thing.
How do you compose a drum solo to a song that is lyrics and melody?
Right. Well, it wasn't really a solo, but I was accompanying the arrangement of a 1960s something Chicago symphony version. I think you're alluding to. I played. I don't know.
It's like a Pistons. It was a
yes,
Pistons game.
I played at a basketball game like in 1990, dude. And I had met Isaiah Thomas at the time, who was the captain of the Pistons at an award show, and he said, "Come play," And, I said, "Okay, but I'm a drummer." Same thing. I was like, "I play the drums." He goes, "Doesn't matter. Do whatever you want." I'm like, "Okay." So I'm like, "What would I do?" So basically, my thought was, how would John Bonham, not to put myself in that category.
You're in that category.
No. I would say, well, how would John Bonham play the national anthem? So I play along to a pre-recorded track and just did that. And it was fun and exciting. It's my mother's favorite thing. She just, somebody comes over to the house, "Hey, you should see my son play the national anthem." But it was really fun. I was still am. I was a big, basketball fan, and I was happy to play at home. And
That's actually a question that I often bring up, which is this new album. How would your mom describe it to one of her friends?
I would honestly, if my mom was like my manager or lawyer, I would be much further along in my career, because she is Pitbull and has so much love and support. I mean, how would she thinks she sings the songs, she loves them, and she's extremely supportive and is a little pissed off that more people don't know about it yet. And
as a proud mother would be.
She wants more people to know about it, and my folks, who are my best friends, have been very supportive of this whole project, and not only because I'm their son, but because they think this is, I mean, a lot of the music in my worldview, but a lot of the music I came up on when I was a child. I mean, The Clash, Peter Tosh, Dylan, John Lennon's Imagine record, KRS-One, Public Enemy, a lot of really radical stuff. Graceland record was playing a lot of the South African music during apartheid just in my living room. And so a lot of that was the stuff that Ruben Blades, just like a lot of stuff that I just kind of came up listening to as a child.
Good stuff.
She's a big fan. She's a big.
And your dad.
And my dad, yeah. My dad
Awesome.
is in many ways a co-conspirator, in the project. I just want to see something else around I think one of the interesting things, on the surface, this collaboration, I mean, over the years, Chad and I, we've become almost like very close friends, and I really love this brother and cherish the friendship, which to me is the most important part. For many years, since the first time we recorded, one of the most exciting and special things is him as an artist, and to bring that artistry and his drumming to our music. As we've gone further in and deepened our friendship, and finally, with your support and the support of a few other people, finally got this album out. I mean, one of the things that's interesting, and people ask me what it was like to not just write the songs, but you be part of this, is, people are somewhat surprised. Like, they weren't so surprised, they were impressed, but nobody's surprised that Tom Morello helped us with our first record 15 years ago. But they're like, oh, I wouldn't think he would be part of it. But I think one of the things that's been interesting of this whole process is people to discover your thoughtful side. You know what I mean? And
not the knuckle dragging drummer side.
I mean that seriously. I mean, it's a of course, there's a lot of ways we see the world differently. Mm-hmm. So, but that's one of the things that's really interesting to me about life and music. And I'm not talking about overlooking differences that you have with anybody, or that we even have profound differences. I'm just saying, like, that's been really interesting through this whole process. I mean, his voice is on the record because he was just like screaming and singing, and there's 15 drum mics. So he's an honorary member of the band.
The thoughtfulness doesn't surprise me. The energy to go do a show on your day off while you're on tour.
I love to play, man. I'm a musician. I love to play, and I love Miles and his band. So we're in the same city. That's okay. They had another drummer play a little bit, and then I came up kind of, and played. I wasn't playing 2.5 hours, but I just love to play, man. And I love to play with my friends and people that I respect and that play great music. So it falls into all those categories with these guys. And so we've been off tour since the end of July, so I'm like, let's go. Let's play. Let's play on the back of a flatbed truck, play in someone's closet. I think I played like 5 times in New York in like 3 days.
Yeah, that was fun. But you also,
I just love it.
This record, as we said, was recorded 13 years ago, mixed 7 years ago, vinyls made 5 years ago, and we finally putting it out. That's another 7-hour interview in the saga of the album. But when I came over your house 2 years ago and we were talking about making the music video, I said, we're going to finally try to put this out. And you said to me, you were like, this is the time for this music. This is the time for the Welcome to the Revolution album. And that was very, our friendship is really important to me, but I think this is the time. And even the way that rock and roll is just sort of like such an underground art form at this time, doesn't really have the juice in the industry or any of that. In a weird way, it's kind of like, we're going to step into that void. You know what I mean? We are stepping into that void. We're competing with no band. I'm not in any competition. I'm not putting anybody else down out there. I draw a lot of inspiration from a lot of artists, but ain't nobody else saying what we're saying and making and doing this particular music. And so I really do think the time is now, not just for Outernational, but the time is now for people to raise their sights and raise their hopes and aspirations that humanity could live a different way. And this album is it's an invitation, but it's not asking anybody for permission. And that's why I love the idea of the truck. We didn't get any permit. This is a moment. We're not asking for permission, but our arms are wide open for anybody who wants to see a different way for humanity.
So you guys are doing the show on Saturday. The album is out.
Yeah.
I heard is the album on vinyl as well?
The album's on vinyl.
Oh yeah.
We have 2 vinyls. We have Welcome to the Revolution, which is the 10 songs, and then we have a 7-inch we just pressed up that has Last Class, which is one of the first singles, and Electric Avenue, which we do on the record.
Oh yeah, that's right. You guys do a cover.
Yeah.
Do you do any other covers in the live show?
Yeah, well, on this record, there's actually 2 covers. There's Electric Avenue, written by Eddie Grant, and then there's another cover of a song called Whirlwinds of Danger.
That's a cover?
Yeah.
Really?
You didn't know? Yeah, you knew that. You knew that. But it's a cover in the sense that it's an old folk song, so no one knows who actually wrote it.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Whirlwinds of Danger is an old song.
I have
that's a
a
great
question. This is more of a poll. Am I crazy here?
Yes.
I think that Seven Nation Army counts as a folk song now because of its participatory nature through the soccer stadiums.
It's an epic song.
Yeah. Yeah, when you get I think you know, We Will Rock You. That like those kind of things, like when it goes to that like level, it's like that's very rare and it's super cool, you know. But
this transcends language. The We Will Rock You is kind of a, you know, English world centric thing, whereas they do the in Tokyo and Tehran and everywhere.
God, it's wild everywhere. Yeah, I mean, that was a good day for Jack White when he came up with that. That's pretty good. I keep that one.
He said that he was actually. I read that he said that he whatever record that was White Stripes record that was on, he didn't really pay attention to it, and it was a track he wrote. He would just play at sound check, and one of maybe his guitar tech or someone else part of his posse was like, "That's pretty cool. You should do something with that."
That's simple like thing, a throwaway. Yeah. It's so funny how that happens. Like stuff that you don't, you know, it's not. It just happens. It's a beautiful thing.
Did I misremember? Do you drum barefoot? Is that a thing?
No, I used to.
You used to?
When I was a little young whippersnapper right out of high school. I used to walk through all these Detroit bars like with glass and cigarette butts and beer-soaked bars in my bare feet, and then I cut my feet, and I was like, maybe I should wear some shoes.
Because that's what I remember about Meg, is that...
Was she barefoot?
Always. Every time I saw them, she was barefoot.
Yeah. I mean, there is something for drummers, not all, but like to be able to feel the pedals is a thing. I wear really like thin shoes when I drum, like wrestling shoes or something, but yeah, the bare feet thing is, yeah, I mean... But she wasn't playing bars, though. Yeah, I was literally walking through bars.
And you got your bouncy leg that you go into in a recent interview. You did a kind of a drum website that you went into like really hard detail of your actual Drumeo, which was fascinating. Like you know, just the physical posture and the way that you hold yourself is something that it's like an athlete. You have to keep it going.
Yeah.
You were 12 years between Outernational. Was it, even Michael Jordan had a little trouble coming back after not playing ball for 2 years.
Yeah.
Was it a transition?
That's a good question. I mean, we never stopped Outernational. And myself and Jesse Williams, the founder of the band and bass player who's here with us for these shows, we never stopped. We were like release singles here and there, playing New York City. But, you know, there's it's really good to not give up, especially if the thing you're not giving up in is something you're trying to make a contribution, to the world. But there's a difference between not giving up and fighting to win. And a few years ago, I realized, with the help of some friends, like, this is really important, what we're doing. And it's time to go 100% or go do something else that would be important. And to not be just, kind of hanging on. Like, I don't really believe in fight the good fight. I want to fight to win. And when I say win, I don't just mean, career or that we need to do that to survive. But I mean in terms of trying to have this art contribute to a larger process of changing the world. I became a much better artist, to directly answer your question, when I moved to Bogota, Colombia last year. And we had to reconstitute Outernational with different musicians, my friends down there. And we were rehearsing 3-4 times a week for like 3-4 months. And I became a much better singer and a much better musician, and it became much more spiritual, much more athletic. And I mean, these guys will tell you, and most great artists will tell you what type of work it really takes, you know, to be great. And it's a real responsibility when you get on that stage, you know, for everyone on the stage, but especially if you're holding the mic. It's kind of, I think about it kind of like, what are those boats, like maybe the Viking boats or the rowing? Hey man, everyone in this room, we're all on this boat rowing, but I got the rudder. You know, I got the microphone, I got the rudder, and so that's a big responsibility that we all have, because, you know, people's vision, you know, it's like a lot of people got what are those things that the horses got? The blinders. People got the blinders on, you know, and it's not their fault, but they got them on. And you come to a concert or any artistic experience, go to a movie or whatever, you know, it's a chance to go on a journey. You know, we're one of the only species that can do that. We're aware of the past, we're aware of the future. And, you know, art, you can meld and bend reality. And so when you come to a show, you know, I mean, you've seen thousands of shows. You know what, you know, you want to go somewhere, really be taken somewhere.
And you can be taken in a lot of different ways. You can be taken kind of viscerally and really kind of in your body. It can be something that is a shared journey, and what you're experiencing is the connection to the people around you. Or it can be what you were talking about earlier, where it was the message, the KRS-One and Graceland and The Clash and things like that. I've heard interviews with you talking about Detroit and Motown as being kind of musically something that was a formative part for you. But what about like message music? Was there ever music in that had something that really transformed you?
I think What's Going On by Marvin Gaye, to go to your Motown thing, is my, I don't know, top 5 records. And I hate to make lists and stuff, but like, there's often music. There's a great thing about art and music is that I didn't seek that out. That just like sought me out. And for whatever reason, you connect with stuff. And it's the human connection, I think, is so important with art and music and anything in life. But like, that's the thing that gives it value. And I just like, you know, it's just heavy. But like not in a weighty way, like in a thoughtful way, in a spiritual way, in a way that wants you to like go outside and dance around and scream and die. I don't know. That's the way it affects me. But you know, I was a little kid when I remember I was a little kid and grew up outside of Detroit when there was a lot of heavy shit going on. Oops, sorry. You know, race riots and crazy stuff, and Marvin Gaye was writing and singing about that stuff, and yeah, I think it's important. I think it's always important for artists to comment on what's happening in the world and socially and whatever. That's kind of our job. Comedians, you know, and in this unfortunate state of culture, it's like, you know, people are they're worried about getting canceled, or I can't say the right thing, I'm going to offend this person. That's kind of sad to me, because, again, it's important. And look, this record's got a lot of positivity on it. It's thought-provoking. It's super passionate. It's musical. It's fast and hard, and has very also, you know, it's just a lot of dynamics. It's a wide-ranging palette of emotional art and music, and so I'm attracted to that. That's something I like. You know, that's what I want to see in art. It should be dangerous. It should be thought-provoking. I don't like safe. And the worst thing was like, well, how is it? And you're like, it's all right. I don't want to hear all right. You really like it? You really hate it? I want to
polarize you.
And I want
love that.
You know, to people to it affect people, whatever way, and that's just what I like. But you know, that's just me.
And Miles, you talked about a lot of formative experiences that were with artists when you were growing up, and also mentioned that there's not a lot of artists like Outernational out right now doing this. And, you know, it's a cliche again, but the revolution requires the next generation to take it over. You have a front row seat to the next generation. You're a how many kids do you have?
I have six children.
6 children.
Yeah.
Well, reporting from the front lines, and you
Never
also,
seen a condom.
when I was in
I'm
college,
not a sailor.
When I was in college, I wrote the ODB from Wu-Tang obituary, and I went to Boston College, which was a Catholic school, and I wrote in his obituary that ODB, like our administration, is staunchly opposed to contraceptives, and
I love kids. Yeah.
So, and you also have some connection with like music education.
Sure, yeah.
And that's something that I think happened when we were younger and is not really around anymore. So what's your perspective on young people and their connection to music?
Well,
We got a little surprise on Saturday.
right. Speaking of,
Oh.
yeah, should we let the cat out of the bag? So my son Beckett is a sophomore. He's 15 and he's a drummer. Very passionate drummer. Pretty good on the kit. Can hit the skins. And he is going to perform the first 5 songs with Outernational on Saturday night. And he is excited. And he's a good drummer. I gotta say, Beckett's good. So yeah, I was never like, hey, play the drums. I never pushed anything. There are instruments in our house, and I just think that it's important, and it's important to have it in schools. Music and art in schools, and often it's one of the. So I was an advocate for that. I was when Michelle Obama, when Barack Obama was president, she had a thing called Turnaround Arts, and I was part of that. But I want to see kids and younger people play music or do whatever kind of art they want to do. And what I noticed a little bit, and it's only from my personal experience, is it's the culture now. They want it now. I'm like, there's no shortcuts. We played KROQ thing in March at the Forum.
I was there.
You were there?
With my mom.
And my son came and he's watching the band. He's like, Flea carries the band, by the way, Dad. We're on the way home. Yeah, Flea carries the band. I was like, oh, okay, thanks. That's I'm up there beating my brains out. Thanks a lot. He's like, I want to play the Forum. And I'm like, that's great. I love that you want to. No. He goes, how do I get to play the Forum? And I said, well, you got to work hard, and you got to get a good band. You got to get some songs that people like, and you stick around for a while. And, there's no shortcut. There's no. And I think there's some culture where they want it now, and it's all on it's our culture of the phone and all that stuff, and some of these TV shows, The Voice or whatever. I'm not bagging on them, but it's like they want it, and they want it now, and I'm like, dude, you have to put in your hours, 10,000 hours. You have to, unless you're freaking Miles, Tony Williams and fully realized at 17 or John Bonham at 19, like that rarely happens. You have to go and put in the work. So that's important, but also in school, which is great. That's what was great for me.
And you got to have something to say.
And you have to have something to say.
And I
but
mean
that takes time.
But I mean something to say broadly defined. I mean, obviously coming from me, that includes having a really strong and, I don't even like the phrase political art, but I mean that, it reminds me, I don't know if you've seen that Martin Scorsese film about Dylan up until the time he goes electric. And they interviewed Bob Newirth, who was a painter and a musician, who was a close friend of Dylan's and hanging around that whole scene. And in that film, Bob Newirth was talking about at that time how it was different. And he was like, you'd bump into somebody, because there's such a cross-pollination of culture and artists. Talking about the early 60s. And he said, you'd bump into each other and say, like, hey, what'd you do last night? And you say, oh, man, I went to go see Ornette Coleman. Oh, really? Oh, great. What'd he have to say? But you don't mean that literally, because Ornette Coleman's music is instrumental. And then on top of that, he was, very against the grain and offended a lot of people with that avant-garde free jazz. But, I think, one of the things I've found, and maybe some of that will hopefully change now, but the last few decades, there's such an overemphasis on formalism in the arts. You can, in this city, any of these cities, you can find hundreds. You got more talented people now than maybe ever before, but what do you have to say? And again, I don't mean that just in the what's your political message, but what do you have to say? What are you trying to bring to, that's how Coltrane was thinking, and on such a profound level that even if a Love Supreme has a I'm an atheist and I'm still blown away by Love Supreme, and it makes me think about the cosmos and humanity and love, and it's inspiring and frightening at the same time, and that's what we really need right now. Not just, we do need more bands like Outernational, and I hope Outernational gets 1 million streams and gets on the KROQ playlists. But we need a lot of people who, listen, we all got to make a living. If you can't make your art sustainable, you can't continue. But less of all this careerism and more about like, what do you want to say and what do you have to bring to humanity?
And one important part is having something to say.
Yes.
But an equally important part is if you don't have anything to say, then listen.
Yeah, sure.
It's okay to not have something to say sometimes on everything.
Yeah. I meant to artists.
No, I
like,
know.
Yeah.
And as a producer on this record, you've worked with producers like, Rick Rubin. And I've heard from a lot of artists that the best producers, listening is really the core of it.
I think listening in music is number one. Like, you can have your chops and you can play really well, and that's great. But the musicians and for sure producers, that's the most important thing. You have to be able to hear and be an empathetic listener, and to your point, sometimes your best part is to lay out. You don't have to play all the time, and or whatever it is. And the people that I've played with that are my favorite musicians are always the best listeners, and that takes some time to like mature as a person and have life experiences, and as a musician to figure that out. And when you're young, you want to like play all. I did it. I don't want to be like Neil Peart and all. It's like, it's not playing for the song. It's not right. It's like not musical. It's like, and okay. But I think some people get it earlier, some people later. But it's experiences, and listening number one.
Well, Outernational, everybody go out and listen. The new record, Welcome to the Revolution, is out now on Spotify and on vinyl. And if you're here in Los Angeles, you can catch them at the Paramount on Saturday with 2 generations of Smiths back behind the drums.
And our keyboard player's name is Smith. It's Smith. It's like a bad lawyer's firm.
And we got 2 Codys here. Shout out to Cody, our engineer,
Yeah,
making us
there
all
you go.
sound good there in the back. Before we go, I got a question which I asked to all guests. I'll start with you, Chad. You started with Chili Peppers when you were 27, somewhere around there, and the band was pretty successful very soon after. You didn't like have 5 years of you guys.
In fact, as soon as I joined the band, we became very successful. It's kind of a. I'm not going to say, but it's a coincidence. I don't know why that. I don't know how.
And one of the bonuses of being a famous rock star is you probably get put on the list if you want to go see a show.
Okay.
When is the last time that you took out your wallet and bought a ticket to a concert, and what artist was it for?
I went to Green Day with my son, and I did buy the tickets, but we have a thing with Live Nation because we did all our shows with Live Nation. So they were very nice and gave us, a fancy box. But
Green Day.
Paying for it.
All right.
Beckett losing his mind over Green Day. It's so cool to see him losing his mind over Green Day.
That's cool.
And that was like 2 weeks ago.
What about you? What's the last concert you bought a ticket for?
Well, the one that immediately comes to mind that I bought a ticket for in the last year was in Bogota, Colombia. There was the Woman Voices of Latin America concert that had Susana Vaca from Peru singing the songs of Vivir Quintana and like 5 or 6 other. It was part of sort of the feminist upsurge through Latin America, and that was really mind-blowing. And I brought some friends to that, and that was just with a 100-person young teenage women orchestra. So that was just like really stuck with me.
All right. Well, I'll buy a ticket on Saturday, but you got to give me one of the
Yes,
vinyl.
yes,
The
I
vinyl?
got the. We
All
got
right.
it in the parking lot right now. Hey, listen,
Awesome.
it's
Thank
really
you.
nice to reconnect with you.
Yeah.
I appreciate the invitation, and to KROQ, and of course Chad for coming out and playing these shows. I'll see everyone on Saturday night, and welcome to the revolution. Enjoy the album. We're very excited about it.
All right. This has been Conversation on Alternalido.